Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Jacob Weil here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
and Rohith.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we find ourselves in the midst of Disney's big venture into the world of streaming, having started a war in the process, we thought it'd be nice to stay up to date on the ever growing catalog and roll what's a must or a bust on Disney Plus. And tonight, we bring to you Mandalorian Chapter 18, The Mines of Mandalore. All right. Gotta love these like pulpy titles.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's always really neat because we have no idea what these titles are going to be until literally they pop up on the screen. Like they just, the night of, when these, when they first premiere, they just say, like chapter this, chapter that, and that's all they say. And then the next day, it's like, hey, we've added the title.
Like, well, I guess it creates a certain mystique.
Well, yeah, that's the point. Yeah, it's add a little extra pulp to the juice, one could say.
And like the old Flash Gordon stuff that almost inspired Star Wars in the first place.
Uh-huh.
All right. So, as you guys might have heard in the intro, we have someone with us tonight. We have Rohith joining us tonight. Say hi, Rohith.
Hi, Rohith.
Aren't we a joke?
Anyway, Rohit, so, buddy, it's good to have you on. We didn't have you on the first one, so why don't you tell us how you've been feeling about the show so far and what you thought of this episode?
I was trying to lead into that dragon.
Oh, sorry. Well, sorry. You were kind of... No, I thought we may have been taking a detour.
No, it was a bit.
Right.
So I would say after the first episode of the third season, I wasn't particularly jazzed with how the show started off. I think just the way that the episode was structured, I'm talking about just referring specifically to the first episode of season 3, the way that it was structured and paced, it felt like just watching like cutscenes of a video game performed by like live action people. And it felt like just like, oh, this feels just if someone didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett and they're just getting an awkward recap, like not just the actual recap, but the actual episode that just like is explaining and just providing like exposition dumps where it's like stuff that we already is covered in another show. For people that don't watch the show, it just feels awkwardly paced. This episode, we'll get into overall thoughts, but this episode is a much better improvement and feels much more in line with like what I like about the Mandalorian as a whole.
All right, Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for me this one is I was very impressed with, the kind of the misdirect with all the setup in episode 1. I mean, we jump started things. Basically, we had a huge jump start on the big goal of season 3, like 2 episodes in, which I mean, basically we kind of set up like, okay, here's one side. Like I very accurately have predicted things so far. It seems at the very least that things have been reshuffled tremendously. My assumption was we were going to like do a bunch of side quests building to this, probably like in the episode, it's given usually a lot of big events in Mando happen around the episode 6 point, like just looking at last season particularly. So
you basically thought it was gonna be like a 6 or 7 episode arc.
Yeah, that's the thing. I thought we were kind of building to this, like, okay, so we gotta go. It's kind of a questy sort of affair. Like, okay, so we gotta find the part for IG-11, and then we're gonna patch him up, and basically going back and forth until we get to this point. And then maybe the pirates are gonna show up again. Fingers crossed for Hondo. But the fact that we went here already, I'm very impressed. I mean, it's some good stuff. I love me some Bo-Katan. I think we did some really good stuff there. So I was very satisfied with this episode. I wish we named. I mean, I probably missed it. But I think there's probably technically a name on this guy. Wish we named like kind of our Grievous contemporary creature, but not saying that really would have naturally come about. So I understand why they didn't do it, but I'm just like for our purposes here, it would be nice to be able to call him something other like the Grievous contemporary or the cyborg monster thing.
Yeah, usually they provide names in the subtitles, and I don't think they did this time around.
Yeah. All right, there you go.
All right, well, my thoughts. I mean, like, yeah, to kind of echo your guys' thoughts. I mean, like, I think I was a bit more positive on last week's episode than you guys were, but I have to admit, like, other than this episode probably being, like, kind of hard to see at times, because it was kind of dark.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of justified considering it was basically in an underground city and everything. And basically, I like the overall pacing of this episode, and as Dragon pointed out, it's a good kind of a subversion of expectations. Like we stopped by Helly in the beginning. I think he's trying to get a part, and then we think she's probably just going to send him out to get a part, but nope, she just straight up gives him a droid, an astromech droid.
Not just any astromech droid.
R5.
Yeah.
R5.
Who still has a bad motivator.
He'll get motivated one of these days.
One of these days.
I don't see the hype. I don't know like what's the hype about for R5. Is it specifically?
It's just a gag. It's not really like he's like really that important. It's just the fact that oh yeah, this guy like had honestly Rohith is just the charm of if things went just slightly differently in A New Hope is like if R5 didn't break down just then, we would have had a very different series.
Oh, he was the ultimate droid that and then
it's the same one.
Oh man,
that's the gag with R5. So it's like, oh man, the paths that we didn't take. So when he shows up, it's like, oh man, he turns out like a bad penny.
R5 saved the galaxy
because he was motivated to do so.
That's a very deep cut. Like, I think back the other deep cut that any of the Disney Plus Star Wars shows have done to like the OT stuff. Is like in Book of Boba Fett, like Boba Fett comes to like a one bar and like there's like a couple that was like in a deleted scene of A New Hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically what I was saying was like basically she just sends him on his way and it turns out to work just fine. I was like so basically I was like it's a good way to like basically get a jump start on things.
Mm-hmm.
So like and of course, exploring the mines was cool, and I love the design on the cyborg thing, and even the giant robot it inhabits. I mean, I just think that's extremely cool.
Mando just can't get away from these giant spider-looking things, can he? He just can't.
And it's the second episode too.
Yeah. I mean, Peyton Reed's going, man, I didn't know I was building like a trend. I was just this little thing, and then I kind of wowed everyone the last one. I went on to do Ant-Man stuff. There we go.
Wait a minute. The second episode of the first season, you get attacked by the Mudhorn.
Yeah, Mudhorn. Mando keeps getting attacked by animal-looking things in each second episode.
In episode 2 of last season, it was the giant ice spiders.
One could say in a conspiratorial way, it's like, well, when you look at episode 2 of Attack of the Clones, we have that Coliseum scene. And when you look at Empire Strikes Back, you have the Wampa.
And like the asteroid.
And they keep getting eaten by like the giant worms and stuff. It's like it's kind of a theme of twos here.
Wait, what's that? Is there anything like that in The Last Jedi?
That is a good question. Let me think. Do we? I don't. Okay, maybe. Well, we had like the horse thing, but you know.
Yeah, but they're
really the monster thing. The random creature that attacks people or whatever, or tries to is Force Awakens.
Yeah, that's the thing. So yeah, we kind of missed it by one, but still, it's pretty consistent.
It's surprising in Star Wars how many things get eaten.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, like I said, it's obvious. It was also nice to see Bo-Katan in an active role in the plot.
Mm-hmm.
We even get to see her use the Darksaber, as evidenced by this thumbnail evidenced by the concept art we used.
Yeah, it'd be quite misleading if she didn't use it all in the episode.
Honestly, like just this concept art just gives me like, when y'all look at when you go past like an aisle in a bookstore or a library, or whatever, that has like old school fantasy sword and sorcery books.
Yeah.
I mean that's essentially what Star Wars is, except in space.
No, definitely can.
But just the way how the figures composed, like it could easily you could easily swap out Bo-Katan and the spider creature,
like Dungeons and Dragons or something like that.
Yeah, and
Warcraft or what have you,
or this is a card game of Magic the Gathering.
There you go. That's the best example.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean that's more of a card game.
Well, yeah, I'm saying like the art on that card game would be like something like this.
Cover art or just like art depicting like fantasy settings and tropes and all that stuff. But what I really appreciate about this episode is that it's like the way, especially when Jin and Grogu go down through the mine, it's like I described the first episode feeling like cutscenes of a movie of a video game acted out by real life actors. This felt like, oh man, this would be so cool to play this as like a video game and just like moving Mando down with like the right trigger or whatever as he's descending down with the jetpack, and or like fighting the spider creature. It was like, man, that's what I appreciate about the Mandalorian, especially this episode, is that there's just a like sense of like of another world, and the creature designs were really cool. I love like the Neanderthal abominable snowman. You know, like
The Alamites, I think, is what they're
yeah,
called.
yeah. It was so fun to see
The
them.
mutant wampas.
Yeah, it's so fun to see them giving Jin and Bo-Katan trouble. Uh, I really appreciated like the difference in how Bo-Katan uses the dark saber versus Jin. Like she can just like wield it like a regular saber, and like it cannot lift it. It's that heavy for him.
Yeah.
And also, Grogu's getting a lot more vocal.
Yeah, he's doing like he's making kind of like almost like a little pig sound, like a little little kind of baby grunt.
And Grogu's actually shown. I said Grogu, and Grogu's actually shown that he can. Actually, he's pretty well in evasive maneuvers too. He's able to fly off the planet and get back to Bo-Katan.
Yeah, I wonder who taught him how to do that.
It's the Force, Blue Dragon. It's the Force.
Right.
The Force works in mysterious ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like we even see him jumping around, which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's following in the footsteps of his fellow species member Yoda.
I honestly think they're getting more confident in the puppet movements.
No, for sure.
Because obviously you can still tell it's a puppet when he jumps around and people grab him and everything, but you can tell they're like trying to be more creative in how.
It's like we're in the Gremlins 2 era of Baby Yoda. He's going around. He's kind of like he's walking. Actually, I should be careful of that comparison, because Joe Dante is going to get on a whole thing about it. But my point is the fact that he's walking around more, much like Gizmo did in the second one. They advanced the puppet, so it's a little
Like I said, I don't know if the puppet's more advanced, but they definitely, which I said, it's just that the special effects artists might be more confident in their movements.
Sure. Yeah.
But either way, like I said, this episode is definitely, I think it's definitely fun. I mean, it advanced the plot forward, and it was just an overall fun episode.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we can get into the topics now, unless you had something else to say, Rohit.
What I really appreciated was the moments of characterization for Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
It's interesting how from the second season she's kind of seemed like very standoffish and just all about what she wants, and she was definitely very mopey at the first episode, but it was nice to see her kind of take charge, and actually her and Grogu had like a very interesting dynamic.
What do you think a random question. What do you think she does? She just sits in the chair, there's no TV or anything. She's just kind of like just sits there and just kind of like just stares off, just thinking, man, if I just got that, if I just told him to wait here and I took care of Moff Gideon, everything would be going my way right now. Is she just thinking that, or is she just like, what do you think she grabs some lunch while she's there? Like, what do you think happens?
I think she must definitely it'd be very funny if like there's like
she has a very nice place.
Yeah, it'd be funny. There's an episode where there's like a montage of what she does on like a day-to-day basis. Like one day she just like shoots at like random creatures, or maybe she just like flies around, but not like actively flying. She's just standing and just
like a little like light floating, just like up, down, up, down, side. What's the point, man? It's like kind of like a little slight depression on Bo-Katan, just like, man.
She could try to do some play acting. You know how like Shakespeare actors hold skull and talk about the Hamlet monologue. She'll do that with her helmet.
Just imagine her doing almost like oh god, can you imagine? This would be hysterical. This will never happen. I'm not seriously suggesting this, but imagine they like a Spaceballs thing where you just have her playing with like little Star Wars, like almost like Kenner Star Wars action figures of Din and her and Moff Gideon, the Darksabers. It's like, oh, Bo-Katan, thanks for saving my bacon. Man, you should take his Darksaber. Oh, thank you, Din. I'm going to take the Dark. Then, like, the droid comes in, like, ma'am, what are you doing? I wasn't playing with anything. It's like, oh, yeah, I didn't see anything. I didn't see you playing with your dolls. Okay.
They're not dolls. They're action figures.
Anyway, no, seriously, no, you're right, Red. It's We do get a lot of growth on her, though.
And then when Mando sees like these figures are very well made.
Anyway, yes, but it's great to have Bo. We're not just bringing Bo Katan back, just like, oh my god, that's Bo Katan. It seems like we're saying something about her, which is important.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing the contrast between her and. I mean, this was already established in the second season, but to go even further about her just being the disillusioned, like not even exile, but just like former ruler of old, dynasty, and she's kind of like those like czars that were exiled from Russia,
Yeah.
and Din is just like the devout that is now seeking repentance for his like transgression.
They're both in interesting places at the top of this season.
Mhm.
One only wonders how far they'll go. Like, did she actually? Like, she used the darks. The question is, she used the dark saber, but she didn't technically beat it off of Jin.
That's the thing. Well, yeah, that's the thing. I feel she that's her. To me, I read that as that's her, much like Din, kind of breaking tradition there, and I think she's like getting past her own superstition. I think, well, at the end of this episode, which we'll get to, I think was a huge moment for her in terms of like she's shaking the beliefs that she had about certain things, as ultimately Din probably will too.
It is kind of funny that she talks about like the minds are just it's just superstition, but then she believes the whole thing about the dark saber having to be won in fair combat.
Yeah, so I think she's kind of looking a little past after the fact that she wielded that thing, and also again part of her. Yeah, I wonder how the whole thing of ownership goes. Like if Din, I have a thing about it. Let's put a pin on the dark saber thing. We'll get there. There's a lot to talk about there. I want to talk about when we actually have her wielding the thing. Do you want to talk about our little pit stop to Tatooine?
Yeah, sure.
So I just want to bring this up. It's really funny. Bunta Eve.
Bunta Eve.
Yeah, so Bunta Eve apparently Bunta Eve. This is like a Hut holiday. I don't know if it's like the original Hut was Bunta the Hut or not, but the point is you had a very important Hut, and apparently, if you look at Phantom Menace, when we do all the pod racing is in conjunction with Bunta, in which Bunta is this. Essentially, it's a celebration of the huts, and so apparently that was going on when we had the pod racing in Phantom Menace. So it seems like we're doing that again here. So that's kind of cool.
Wasn't Jabba the one in charge of the first in Phantom Menace?
Well, I think it's like they invite the Hut families to watch, like they celebrate the Hut families, and it's like the whole like Mandalore is like probably the original or very important Hut. So it's a holiday in the name of the Hut. So Jabba and Jabba's family was there. So
all right, because Jabba would probably be still alive around that time.
Well, yeah, no, he was in that scene, Jacob. I'm just saying this is probably have the surviving Hut family members there now, like we saw in Boba Fett. Like those two Huts, they're there. The cousins.
I wonder if we'll see any Huts in this show.
I mean, that's a good question. I don't know if we have room for them because we went to Tatooine and we did tease that did the Huts hire you to kill Boba Fett yet or not? Which that to me felt like a meta thing of like that's them kind of tipping their hat to like, yeah, we know people weren't thrilled with Book of Boba Fett. Let's just call it out.
Like, I'm not sure if that's the case, but I guess it could be interpreted that way.
I mean, I think it's light enough that it's not really fully coming down on it, but I think it's like a little like, yeah, wink of like, yeah, we know what you did like from Book of Boba Fett, and we're having a whole season of that right now, so you're welcome.
Mando.
Yeah. Anyway, so yes, so we nipped the plot line in the bud, surprisingly, where we have Pele and the Jawas, and they have this whole scamming operation where they basically steal parts off of ships and basically repair the ships, and then very fast.
We do have a comment from Atomic Beast.
Oh, what do we got?
At this point, Bo lost her beliefs after losing not only her sister, but also her clan and then Mandalore.
Yeah, she's lost everything at that point. No wonder the place is so deserted.
Strangely enough, her sister wasn't even mentioned in this episode.
I think they're building to that, Jacob. Like they mentioned the father, so we at some point they have to mention her sister at some point.
I mean, considering her sister's older and actually was the ruler of Mandalore.
No, that's really important. So you have to remember. And we kind of teed up the Obi-Wan of it all, though.
And also in love with Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and we did kind of allude to that here. We mentioned I've worked with Jedi, so we kind of someone could say Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, but mainly those two are the ones that she interacted with. So.
Well, yeah, so especially if you've seen the end of season 7 of the Clone Wars.
So yeah, I think they were mainly referring to that anyway. But yeah, think
He
it's
has
more
a- he
Ahsoka. It's
gets-
just given the Ahsoka shows around the corner is probably more in reference to her. Anyway.
Basically, you can just say that her sister had a very close relationship with with a certain Jedi.
Oh yeah.
So much so that the Jedi would have left the order had she said something.
We have this gag where she's just kind of walks by a room and she hears like "Hello there," and just like pops her head like, "Hey, that's not how the Force works. Get out, sis. Get out."
Oh God.
Anyway,
Well, technically,
I know. I'm not getting the cement. I know how it's not.
it's a shame that Satine didn't become one with the Force.
God.
But yeah, it's like that is kind of. I mean, I brought that up in the previous episode to Tiki and everything, but that episode is really sad.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, it's just gut wrenching.
Yeah. All right,
I- I appreciated the one moment where Jin like was respectful to the memory.
You keep saying Jin. It's Din.
It's Din Djarin.
Okay, good to
Sorry.
know. I appreciate Din, being respectful to the memory of Bo-Katan's father. With like, he sounds like a great man that I wish I got to meet.
He was a good man.
I love the way. Obviously, is a line we hear all the time in the show. Very much the whole like, may the force be with you and with you, etc. But it's the fact that she says he died defending Mandalore, and they have this moment of pause, and then Din Djarin, with all the sincerity he can muster in a way that I think kind of like stops her in her tracks for a second, kind of gives her a moment of recognition of like, you know what, this means a lot to him. Just when he says, "This is the way." It's like, yeah, this maybe like again, it's a creed that she kind of said, kind of in a hollow way, and it's the way he says it, I think kind of sparks a little something in her. It was a really nice moment, really well delivered on Pedro Pascal's part.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, point being, we think we're going to get a memory circuit for IG-11. This is a logical place to go. Okay, we would go to Pele. She gets all the parts because she knows the Jawas and everything, but we find out no dice, so we go to R5. We've gotten a lot of mileage out of R5.
And heck, he works.
Yeah. Well, he works, but he doesn't really have quite a backbone. But he works.
Like, yeah, he gets the job done.
I mean, in fairness, the one time he goes out to explore a cave, he gets like freaking mugged by like cave people. So
that's the thing. He made the attempt. I mean, he made the trip, but
in droidies, he's probably like, "This is why I don't do this."
Yeah.
It's like, oh great, now I'm even less motivated.
So, but you know what? There is something thematic about the usage of R5. I could be reading into this, mind you, but I really I like the theory, because you're wondering, he wanted IG-11 because he forged an attachment, like the only other, like, it's not technically a living being, but the only other thing it's ever seen with that is Helmet, on not counting Grogu, is is IG-11.
Mm-hmm.
And just the fact that he had a lot of trust and fondness for him, and he had the whole arc of like trusting a droid with that. And then we have R5, and R5, much like Mando, and the whole kind of premise of the show is like kind of secondhand items and kind of characters in Star Wars were shining lights on him. We're kind of giving him a lot of new life and a lot of attention. So it feels, in some sense, just Mando being kind of the Boba Fett we always kind of wish we had back in the day, just given how quickly we dispatched with Boba Fett. It feels that R5 is kind of like somewhat kind of the unconventional R2D2 who is flawed, but his who kind of is getting a chance to shine here and giving kind of like a
He's also not scrappy like Chopper is.
That's true as well. Yeah, he doesn't have quite the chutzpah that Chopper does.
Yeah, Chopper's just like kind of like his cantankerous old droid.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't want to mess with Chopper, kiddies.
Yeah, he basically makes R2 look like a saint.
It'd be really funny to see like a View talk show, but with all the kind of the astromech or astromech-esque droids. So you have like R2, you got BB-8, you got Chopper, you got R5.
Chopper gets canceled because he says something controversial.
Maybe you have I don't know if you want K2SO there or not, but you might
because he says something controversial but ultimately true. I mean. And then R2 BB-8 would probably be like the mediator.
Oh, absolutely. BB-8's like the young and plucky one of the group.
He'd be the R2D2 would probably just be like the basically speak his mind.
Yeah. Sure.
We can work on. Okay, we can work on this pitch some other time.
Yeah, some other time. So, we go to Mandalore a lot faster than expected. Now we have R5, and the idea is R5 is going to take an air sample, which again it kind of fails miserably. Yeah, but he's there.
Mhm.
And we see we go to Mandalore. I gotta tell you, man, Mandalore, really cool. I like the fact we have to kind of fly through a storm, and then we see like the crystallized fusion bomb, like the bombs, the remnants of the bombing has like these kind of giant crystals from all the fusion damage that happened when they dropped their space bombs.
Yeah.
So it has like the almost like giant spires of kryptonite. It looks like practically.
Mhm.
So that was cool, and we proved that it is breathable there. We have the Alamites, who are kind of the again kind of like kind of a tribal kind of primitive version of the Wampas. Got a cool design, a little Star Trek esque. You remember when Kirk way back in the old show he fought those the white furry things with the horns?
Mhm.
A little similar, kind of cool. But yeah, he's fighting this. The idea that it's breathable, but the place has been overtaken by a number of kind of creatures and kind of like kind of scavengers of sorts. We have the Alamites, and we have this like the Grievous contemporary.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I really wish we had gotten a name up for this thing.
I do because he's really cool looking. He's really interesting. Plus, he's still alive because his head got away, didn't it? Am I missing? Didn't his head get away?
No, I think Bo-Katan killed it after he separated it.
Yeah,
Because
I forgot if she killed the head or not.
Because remember, she like killed attacked the thing,
Mhm.
and then it went into the robot body, and then she killed it there.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. Never
Yeah,
mind. Well, he was doing it.
and remember, the last thing we see of it is like its eyes closing as it dies.
Well, I saw the eye. Well, yeah, that's the thing. I'm probably remembering when eye opened and did detach, and then probably ultimately went back. You're probably right. Okay.
Mhm.
Anyway, yeah, but seriously, so Din Djarin, he's let me ask you guys this. I want your thoughts on this.
And it's kind of funny how it's kind of like a whole like kind of like a Venus flytrap kind of thing where like he saw like the old Mandalorian helmet and then it just like closed around him.
Yeah, and plus it's really heady just how trapped he is. It's almost like kind of like not it's like a living carbonite of sorts in which he's like just in a cage and he's very alive and very aware of what's going on.
And the thing is, we don't even know what this thing even wanted.
That's the thing. So I want to get your thoughts. And so first of all, do you think the idea here is with all the helmets and stuff there? Do you think the idea of any other Mandalorians that returned out of curiosity if this place was habitable or not went there and then got killed by this thing, or do you think it's just like the remnants from like the Great Purge that happened years back?
Ooh, that'd be kind of a nightmare feel if it's like a Mandalorian that just got mangled into looking like that.
No. I'm sorry. I don't mean him. I just mean like we saw like the helmets, like the helmet that was used in the trap. We saw other helmets and bodies and stuff. So I'm wondering, like, if you think the bodies and stuff are an example of just they were there the night of the purge, and that's just the armor that's left because they did look a little aged, or do you think over the years other Mandalorians have gone home and this was their fate, running into this guy?
I think the latter because for those that got killed in the purge, like I can't imagine. I would, if anything, I would feel like the mines would be the safe place to be during the purge, and then likely those that survived in the mines were probably killed off by this like creature.
Gotcha. But yeah, in terms of what this thing was doing to Port Din, was trying to do to him, my theory is where this creature is. Again, they're obviously going for people. They're trying to get people again in the secondhand nature of Mando. Obviously, I think it feels like we're trying to get people thinking of Grievous, which I think Grievous is dead. I'd be very shocked if somehow this was him. I'm pretty sure dead.
I mean, have you seen how many times they killed Darth Maul?
I mean, that's true, but I mean, like we saw him, like his organs and everything lit on fire.
And Darth Maul was cut in half like 3 times.
Wait, was it 3? I mean, I know he's cut in half the first time, and like, was he cut in half like the other?
I mean, I'm exaggerating, but he's died like several times, and then basically his hatred of Obi-Wan brought him back to life several times.
All right, fair point. Plus, right now in Star Wars, we do have a problem in other shows of people not dying ever in Star Wars. So,
I highly doubt this is Grievous, or else I probably would have drawn more attention to it. But
yeah, well, that's thing. So yeah,
and Grievous was like actually an organic alien before he became an android.
Well, you see some organics in this guy, but you're right. The point is, we have a guy who's like made kind of like Mando is here to evoke other eras of Star Wars that we are familiar with, and in this sense, this guy is kind of like he's kind of a droid organism alien mix. And my theory is that he's maybe in a position similar to Grievous, where he's like replaced damaged parts with mechanical parts, and the human, well, not sorry, the organic parts need like blood transfusions and other organs. I think he's about to harvest Din's organs. That's what I think's happening. He's like taking blood from him, and he's probably probably harvest what he can, then leave the body, leave the armor and body parts and what have you.
Because you can see, if you look in this art, I don't know if it was in the episode, but you can see like a skeleton or something in the background there.
Yeah, it's like skeletons all over the place, and helmets too.
This is almost like a spider's den almost.
Exactly. So I'm thinking he usually harvests things from them and then just casts the bodies aside. That's what I think.
I mean, and I just tried looking at it. There's like no consensus to what this thing is called. So as far as we know, this thing doesn't even have a name.
Yep.
Like, but it's cool though. I mean.
Yeah.
I mean.
Oh, it looks. I mean, I know there's obviously some CG here, but it does look rather practical. It looks really impressive.
Yeah, a lot of it actually. I mean, actually did. Maybe that's another reason why it was dark, to hide some of the effects.
Yeah. Which, I mean, ultimately, I mean, just given how scary it is, and this, you don't quite see where this thing's fully coming from, and we're kind of playing what we're not seeing. I don't know. Maybe it was a good call.
Like, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's got like a spider crab robot monster kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Especially with like the lighting being orange, I was getting the kind of the crab lobster vibes.
Yeah. Kind of like that scene from Treasure Planet.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So Din goes down there, and he, as he's looking for the living waters on Mandalore, and he's he's captured by this thing, and then Grogu goes under his orders, goes and finds Bo-Katan. And I got to tell you, man, I love how nice and kind of cordial she is to Grogu here. So I do wonder this. I love how she is with Grogu, but
first off, I want to talk about Grogu's actual escape.
Yeah, okay, we'll talk about Grogu's escape then.
All right, I'm sorry. It's just like so interesting to actually see him like use his like hover. What is the thing called?
The pram.
Yeah, the pram. Like avoiding all the monsters and even and everything, tugging to our fight. Like take me here. Go back here.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just thought it was cute.
No. It was my most when he was heading out of that cave.
I'm trying to figure out how does it work in the sense of yeah. I'm just wondering, is it just like does this need to be like a lever or like a joystick or something to move the thing around? So I'm just wondering, like, how is it moving and going up and down?
Well, I think this is just me speculating here, being the gadget nut that I am. My thought is that the original prams were programmed to like they'd like track you. Like, for example, like it would be linked up to Din, so wherever he went, the thing followed, or it would like go. He'd have like a control of some kind near him. Now it's on the old prams. This pram, if you look at it in the detailing, it has like a little light on it. It has like a little control thing on the inside. I think he's actually controlling it.
Okay.
I think he's like hitting little buttons, like to go forward and back and stuff. That's how I think it's working. Well, I don't think he's necessarily using the Force to make. He's obviously not using the Force to make it hover. There's a chance he's using the Force to direct it. It's possible, but I don't know. I think he's like actually hitting little buttons on it.
And I just love like those like those what are they called? Those caveman things or
Neanderthal? Yeah, the Alamites. The
Alamites, like how one of them kind of like ambushed him, and then he just like uses the Force to like blast it out of the way.
Yeah.
It's like he's like I don't have time for this. Get out of here. I have to save my dad. It's like I have to save my dad.
Gotta save Papa Din. Daddy Din Daddy.
Oh, okay, Dragon. All right. And then they go to Bo-Katan, and you're right. Like at first she was kind of telling him to, kind of wanting him to.
She's getting ready like to tear Din Djarin's head off, saying, "Get out of here! Get off my lawn! Get off my fancy lawn!"
But then the moment she sees it's just Grogu, she's like, "What's going on?"
Now here's the question, gentlemen.
Yes.
Okay, so do you think she does this out of concern, or do you think it's more she realizes something's happened to Din Djarin, my bounty, essentially, the Darksaber that is mine, I want, little loophole, if I get this thing after he's dead, I mean, no one else is going to take it, I might as well take it, so I'm going to go and get my dark saber. Do you think it's mostly she's going to get that dark saber? Or do you think she's doing it out of concern, like, oh man, Grogu's daddy's in trouble, I gotta save him?
There might be a combination of both.
I think ultimately that's where the truth lies. But
I mean,
yeah,
I think it's just like, well, I can't say no to this kid, and if I get the dark saber, that's a nice bonus.
yeah, much as I like to think it's both. But I mean, deep down, I think it might be more like, oh, the dark saber, I can get it. Just given the funk that she's been in for the past episode, I'm thinking it's mostly like, I need that dark
I
saber.
think it really depends on when the third episode, like, depending, like, all right, if Jin, goes through the waters and comes out, like, is he just going to be okay with just handing the dark saber over?
Oh yeah, he wanted to give it to her he doesn't want that thing. He just wants to give it to her, but she won't take it. So now I think she'd be at a place she could probably take it.
Based on some of the things we see later in the trailer that we've seen before, I don't think she fully gets the dark saber. I think she probably gives it back to him.
I think it's great though that we see that we've been building this up, and we see this at practice here when he has that fight with the Alamites earlier. Din still has trouble lifting the dark saber, where she's very skilled with this thing, so she can wield it like butter. She can. Yeah, she can wield this thing, with great ease and dexterity, which is what helps her in that fight. And I think that's kind of showing you that, again, it makes me think equally she could absolutely end up with this thing. It probably is her birthright, and you're rooting for her, like, this was her home and everything. She should have this, and Din has no problem with that. But I think ultimately the truth is she's going to invest in Din. I think she's going to help him wield this thing, probably give him some pointers. So I don't know. It could go either way, but I'm thinking, I think you might be right, Jake. I think it's going to more end up on, like, not her wielding the thing.
I mean, ultimately she might end up with it, like, down the ways. But for right now, like I said, this is just a pure pulling out my hat assumption based on the bits you've seen in trailers.
Yeah. I think it's like a thing where the audience wants Din to have it because we like Din and we'd like to see him grow and be able to wield this thing. The fact is, like, you want the guy in leadership to be a guy who does not want to be in leadership, where, her it's too easy if she gets it. But by the same token, it feels like she deserves it. So it'll be interesting to see how they go about that thing.
My understanding is that I think in the Clone Wars show, like, when she got the darksaber, she didn't get it through the proper way, and then things all fell apart.
Exactly.
Her mind, like, oh, if she keeps the darksaber for long, like, maybe she either curses herself.
She bought into the legend about the curse because it did not go well for her when she wielded the thing untraditionally. So
that Darth Maul didn't help things either.
No, he didn't.
But it'd be interesting if, like, at the end of this season, like, maybe Bo-Katan becomes, like, a true believer, and maybe Din is the one who becomes, like, basically without faith, or just maybe more of a skeptic.
I mean, that's entirely possible, and we did posit that theory early on. But it would be kind of interesting arc if we do see more Bo-Katan throughout the season, anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, she seems to have been promoted to a full cast member. But
that's the thing. I think she's going to be around. I think she'll just be along with him for the journey. Frankly, I think she'll be around for the whole journey at this point. But I always thought after the Mandalore stuff she would be around. But just given we're doing it so early, I guess by logic standing, she would probably be around for the duration, if not almost all the episodes.
From the sound of things, they're trying to, for this season. I think they're. Keep in mind this is just because of 2 episodes. They're trying to keep, like, the more standalone aspects of season 1, but also, like, do it in combined with the overarching stories of season 2.
Yeah, which, I mean, worked well for both seasons ultimately. So it's kind of an interesting way of going about stuff.
So like I said, it might do something like where they, like, it builds upon the overall story, but each episode is, obviously a self-contained adventure, or, like, maybe it's like this with 2 or 3 episode arcs.
Yeah. So after we saved Din's bacon, I love Bo-Katan and how she interacts with our characters here. Of course, one, I love how it's just really cute to me how she calls Katie Sackhoff is just exuding charm as Bo-Katan. I love the whole thing where she does some cool Mando stuff in the when they're going into the mines, and she says, "You didn't think your dad was the only Mandalorian, did you?" It's just like she's just calling him his dad, like, and everything, which is already really nice. And she's looking. I think she's kind of like giving him a pep talk to kind of confront his fears. But then
you can tell she's fond of the kid.
Yeah, there's a fondness there. But what gets me really is that she and Din seem to have really good chemistry in terms of like there's a respect there for each other. There's like a building friendship there. Like I love as Rohit pointed out, I love him complimenting her father, and the fact that ultimately in these conversations they're finding some common ground despite their this whole splintering Death Watch of the whole Mandalorian culture thing. The fact they're coming from two very I've always loved this since the introduction of Bo-Katan. It was always such a brilliant idea. The fact that she absolutely knows more than Din does here. But then I think this kind of peels back the layers and showing that even so, Din is kind of he's learned the way of life. He knows about. I think he knows about the two sides of Mandalore and the conflict, but it's just something that he's doubling down on because he's unsure.
What you're
And
saying, Blue Dragon, is that he's Din, not Dim.
What?
He's Dim, not Din.
Oh,
no, he's the other way. That's what. Oh God, that's cool.
But either, but I just because like how deeply he was indoctrinated into it, and how much he owes the Death Watcher.
So Jake. I'm so glad you hit on that point because that's what's great about this. Din, I think the read we have on Din is that he believes when he's talking about the creed, when he recites the creed and everything, what he basically explains to her, like the whole we're separated by a sea of stars and everything, is that Din believes in the creed truly not because of like this is not purely because this is the way, not just because it's said that this is the way, but ultimately because of the tangible stuff and that it bonds a group of disparate people without families, foundlings like him, because he's a foundling. That's because of the bond that they share and how everyone has each other's back. Like that sense of family is the creed that he believes in. That's why he's full on Death Watch. That's the only life that he's known. And I think deep down he just doesn't want to go against, not out of fear or anything, but more out of fear of loneliness. Perhaps he doesn't want to go against these people that called him family or anything.
I mean,
If that makes any sense.
It does make sense. I mean, it is a common kind. It is an interesting story when you see like somebody was brought up a certain way, only to realize that the way they were brought up is kind of, or see the cracks in the way they were raised.
Yeah, it's like Din's not an idiot. Din's not an idiot, but he feels this way truly, and this was his upbringing. This is like you can't easily, even if like it's like again, this season we're kind of exploring elements of religion, which we've touched on in Star Wars. The season's full on is kind of doing this in a sense of like, hey, we're like, why do people believe in things that to an outsider or anyone who's maybe how deep they are into certain religions or theological stuff or studies, like this part doesn't make sense. We don't believe in this part. What A equals B, and like this and that, and like 2 + 2 doesn't equal a little fish magnet on a car, that sort of stuff. It's like, how does?
I mean, to the point about the religious aspect, I mean, Din coming to Mandalore is like basically like a trip to Mecca or like going to Israel or whatnot, in the holy lands. And I think to your point is that Din is not an idiot so much as he's very insular and set in his way. He's very a traditionalist at heart.
Yeah.
And it's to do his relationship with Grogu is kind of interesting. It's basically Lone Wolf and Cub, where Lone Wolf specifically is like a devout zealot, and through his like journey with the kid, it's him kind of maybe not disavowing like his connection to something greater than himself, but disavowing the religious aspect of to be more secular in nature, for lack of a better word.
Sure. Also, the Pog soup was nice too. That conversation was a nice little break the ice sort of thing. Like I gotta admit, part of me was surprised they didn't say porg, which would have been horrifying, but would have been really funny.
Well, I mean, we did see Chewbacca roast one over an open fire.
That's what I'm saying. We've done that, so it would have been. I'm kind of surprised. Just the fact that we have Pog and we have porg is very similar in sound, but regardless, it's the fact that we'll talk about, Pog soup's like a big element of the Mandalorian culture.
Well, the fact that Pogs are also this like fad from the '80s too.
Well, that is also rather entertaining.
I don't even know what Pogs are.
Yeah, Pogs are like the little plastic top things that people collected.
Right.
And I forget if they like that. No, I might be thinking not tiddlywinks, but there's like a thing where I think did you flip the Pogs? Is that like you threw them around a little bit too, like the win Pogs? Like in essentially it was lumped in with like gambling in school, so you couldn't do the Pog trading. It was like a whole thing.
Honestly,
I was too young. I did not exist in the '80s, so I couldn't.
I mean, I didn't either, but I know of Pogs.
Okay, the point being, Pogs are like little plastic caps that
I
had
mean,
like designs on them. They were like Marvel Pogs, and
You know, I
also
know, I know what Pogs look like, and I know they were a trend. I just don't know what like the extent of that
I
trend.
mean, I mean, they're basically just like tradable collectibles, from what I understood.
yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so we have like they're kind of commiserating of like the Pog soup and the whole fallen kingdom of Mandalore and how she was royalty and everything and like was trying to honor her father despite the idea. The really cool thing is that we kind of liken the taking the creed almost like a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah of sort. Like I guess technically whatever religious denomination like christening or what have you, it was essentially like a rite of passage. There's the proper term. It was a rite of passage, and she kind of did it without fully like believing it, but it was kind of a thing they did that then Death Watch fully doubled down on as like a full on belief system, which but is the fact
it's basically like like secular versus radicalism.
But I think it boils down to what we have here, where ultimately
basically the Death Watch is more like the radical side of things, or the extreme side of things.
Yeah. So ultimately, it boils down to her pointing out like, look, it's like a thing where the waters aren't really magic, but they're here. Like, yes, we did this thing, but it's not truly magic. And of course, then we get to the why the creed matters thing with him. Then we get to the living water, so we do essentially the big story point of the season way earlier, and obviously we interrupted a little bit, which I think is for a story point, which we'll be exploring in future episodes.
And Atomic Beast has another comment for us.
Yeah,
Bo was blinded by the fighting aspects of Mandalorian rather than traditions.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting aspect. Like, it's not necessarily the religion she had a problem with.
Yeah.
Hence why she's horrified when Maul took over Mandalore after killing Pre Vizsla.
Yeah.
For those of you that have seen Clone Wars, you know what he's talking about.
Yeah, and remember, kids, Paz Vizsla is the son of Pre. He's in the show. He's the giant Mando has kind of some issues with Din.
Voiced by Jon Favreau.
Yeah, also Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau also voiced Pre Vizsla in Clone Wars. That's basically how he met Dave Filoni, I believe.
If we ever see the original, I'm trying to remember the original Vizsla, what the name is. Makes Mandalore. Mandalore is the original Vizsla. No,
you mean Mandalore the Great or whatever?
No, not Mandalore. There was you're right. Sorry, not Mandalore the Great. But there was another Vizsla that's in the original holder of the dark saber. That guy had a name.
Original Vizsla.
Oh, I'm not like he was like both a Mandalorian and
Tar Vizsla. Tar Vizsla. That's the guy.
Okay. Yeah.
So that guy, it was a point, but it'd be funny if we ever see that Tar Vizsla guy, and he is yet again portrayed by Jon Favreau. It'd be great. All the Vizslas are Jon Favreau. I think that'd be really fun.
So every single one of them.
Every single one of them. I like the fact that this Vizsla is so giant, we should never see this guy with his helmet off because he is so devout. So we have an instant in for like, we can easily make this guy Jon Favreau. We're gonna be all good.
And the women in the Free Vizsla clan are just Jon Favreau speaking in falsetto.
That'd be it might be a bit much, but it'd be funny.
Well, you said all of them.
Well, I meant all the men. Fine.
You didn't say just.
I didn't.
Tar Vizsla will be voiced by Robert Downey Jr. and he'll be uncredited, and then it will be later confirmed in like an interview or whatever by Jon.
That would be really cool. Because they've been talking about like somehow they try to sneak Robert Downey Jr. into one of these Star Wars things that Favreau's involved with.
Well, I mean, Favreau did bring RDJ back in a big way. So
yeah, okay. So we go to Living Waters, and this is the big redemptive baptism. We got there already, and now remember, folks, Din needs proof that he did this. Now, my assumption was that he was going to grab like a little sample of the water or something, but I'm thinking he's going to grab a sample of the water or a part of the beast that's about to appear.
The Mythosaur.
Yes, the great Mythosaur. Now, this is we kind of went over we kind of refreshed it for the audience, like a little placard down there. But yeah, the Mythosaur is famously the skull that is on all the Mando armor and like that's the little signet. Here's something that really ticks me off. We kind of completely forgot about in Mandalorian, by the way. Grogu has a little necklace with the little Beskar Mythosaur necklace that we completely forgot about last season. I'm hoping this season it comes back in the fray.
Like,
It's like,
this-
we got to give him the shirt. He needs the shirt. Well, yeah, he's
I
got the
can
shirt, but also the
imagine
necklace.
there'd be a scene where like he gets kidnapped or whatever, and what's
Mhm.
left behind is that necklace, and like Den finds the necklace and like vows to find Grogu.
Right. He's already been kidnapped, though. We can't do that twice.
it was a nice touch to have like Bo-Katan like kind of read it almost kind of like a bored or like not interested kind of way. Like she's like,
And then moments later, she's going to be really wowed by it.
yeah, like whoa, wow, it's attacking Din.
So this is the thing. It's like someone who's kind of doubting the magic of all this stuff. Like, oh yeah, the extinct mythosaur, which, oh my god, the mythosaur's still around. Egad. So this is, I think, going to be a big thing for her arc. And also, we interrupted Din while amidst the Creed. I don't think we're gonna. I'm not sure we're gonna allow him to finish that Creed or not. I'm not sure.
It's just a running gag that every time he gets into it, it gets interrupted. Not by the
Yeah.
Mythos, but just something random.
Like
Yeah.
Like next time he tries to go in, those beasts will come in and try and attack him.
Well, maybe not that repetitive, but yes, something.
He tries to go in, and then he gets a video call from Pele or whatever. It's like, hey Mando, I need you to do
How'd
this.
it go? I'm in the middle of it now, Pele. Would you just give me 5 minutes?
Can you
God.
can you not need Sage for like 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Then it goes in once, and it tries to get in once, and it's like Grogu's like, it's like, I know. Just wait. I'll get you lunch in a bit,
And then we'll do this thing where it's gonna be like that scene in Finding Nemo with the anglerfish, where it's like Bo has to hold off the mythosaurs. Just let me finish reading. Let me finish saying the thing.
It's like, and then okay.
No, but in all seriousness, though, I think it's an intentional thing that we didn't finish that Creed when we were so darn close to it. And I think I don't think he's getting the redemption this season. I think he's gonna have to move past that.
Like, what if like being interrupted during the Creed like renders it void?
Well, that's the thing. I think it is. It didn't go through because he didn't finish it. So I think that's. I don't think it's. Yeah.
The question is he allowed to try it again?
Whatever he gets to the point where he makes a deal with like Bo-Katan, it's like, hey, I'll give you the Darksaber if you and say that you fought it off me and you lie about the fact that I repented. Deal.
Yeah, that's the thing. Part of me wonder if like her being a witness would count as his proof, but then again, it's like she's kind of an apostate in their eyes too because she takes off her helmet. So I don't think it. I don't think it counts. So that's the thing. I mean, if didn't really, but obviously since we got him in the whole apostate thing in the first place, if he just lied and says nope, never took the helmet off, never, nope. No,
I think
Bill Burr absolutely did not see me. Nope.
Like my adopted child did not see me take off my helmet.
Nope. But yeah, seriously, I think that's how we're gonna have him and Bo kind of meet in the middle on things, getting away from their core beliefs. So I think that's where we're heading because of the Mythosaur vollings, which of all the things to kind of do this to them, I think it's a rather huge thing. We've been building up the Mythosaur for a while because we've had ever since the Star Wars holiday special, we've had them riding on giant animals and giant creatures and kind of building up. That's kind of in their DNA, and that's what the Mandalorian culture is all about.
Apparently, it's also in their DNA to be eaten by giant things too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword,
for sure,
or double-edged lightsaber in this case,
or Darksaber, depending on who's wielding it. But yes,
well there's no double-edged. Well, the Darksaber is not double-edged.
Well, it does cut you though if you're not careful, as we saw in that Mando episode. Oh, then the Book of Boba Fett episode. Remember, he tries wielding.
I mean, that might as well have been a Mandalorian episode.
I know. It was really good though.
I mean, it was really good. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
it was a Mandalorian episode.
Yeah.
That's why it was good.
I know, that's the thing. That episode's purely a Mandalorian episode, but then we get into the other one, which is like, well, he's just in the Book of Boba Fett episode, but now it's just kind of like weird because I want to say there's 2 Mando episodes, but it's really one Mando episode, and then an episode featuring Mando.
And which barely even had Boba Fett in it at all.
I know, that's the thing, so it's kind of, yeah.
I know, but it was still very good. It was still a very good episode, though.
Uh-huh.
Just basically,
right, so I think we've reached the end on this one.
So any more sitcom style ideas?
I like every the one time Mando gets in, he gets in halfway, and then his helmet just pops off for whatever reason, and then he just has to like scramble. His helmet just goes down. He has to swim down, grab it, break it up, and then do the whole thing again.
Yep. Okay, I got one for you. Well, this one's actually is half serious. I gotta tell you though, with the dynamic we're giving Bo-Katan and Din Djarin, I do have to wonder. I'm not saying obviously we don't have to do this, but because this is kind of said about, I don't know, it's the fact that Din Djarin's got charm for days as Pedro Pascal plays him, and you do have to wonder. We kind of said people, some people says with Cara Dune, but I think more so with Bo-Katan if anyone else, frankly. There might be some. There's seemingly a burgeoning friendship there. Do you think they would go to the line of perhaps there might be a romantic thing, or like no, or like
Well,
they don't
if
have
they
to
do
force
go
anything, but
romantic- If they do romantic, the bigger question is this: do they keep the helmets on?
well, yeah, well he does. Depending on how his art goes this season, I mean, he could take it off, but yeah.
Jacob got what I meant.
Yep, I understand exactly where you're going with it. Dragon, do you understand where we're going with this?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking like they can't really kiss and do stuff with the helmets on, but
we're saying that Din would keep the helmet on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He would keep he would keep the helmet on. Her,
She's like, man, like Din, you're killing the mood here.
But that's the thing. Down the line, though, if he gets to a place where he can just take the helmet off willy-nilly, which, again, given the constraints with Pedro Pascal this season, I'm thinking it might not be the case.
We'll take the helmet off with the light if the lights are off.
My God.
We've moved on from sitcom to something else entirely.
But what do you think, though? Do you think there's any chance of these two maybe striking something up romantically?
Well, I mean, I could definitely see the friendship and everything, and maybe steadfast allies. But
no, Mando just needs to act like James Bond. How there's like a Bond girl. There's like a Mando girl, and they're all competing not just to be the girl from Mando, but also to be like the mom for Grogu.
Yeah,
Grogu's mom.
God.
Actually, she's basically the only one of the few people so far to actually call Mando Grogu's dad.
Yeah.
So it's like
it's not like he's gonna call Mando daddy. That's between her and Mando.
Oh God.
See now, but see, I'm trying to feel out some actual some character growth here.
No, I think in all honesty, I think one of the ways in which a romance can develop is because Mando took his helmet off as a sense of vulnerability to Grogu, and I think Bo-Katan was there when Mando took off his helmet.
Well, I guess she was in the room at the end when he took it off to see Grogu. Yeah, I guess he. Well, sorry, I'm just trying to remember because he took it off for him to see. I can't remember if he put it back on again when Luke left with Grogu or not. Do you remember? I don't know if he's popped he lifted it off for a moment and then he put it back down.
He lifted it off, and then he sees Grogu getting with Luke, and then the elevator shuts down, and you see his face, reacting emotionally. So
So is he standing there with the rest of them with his helmet on at the end? Though?
Yeah. So.
Oh yes, okay. So she's seen it before. It'd be really funny though if there's this gag where she imagine this cute rom-com gag where she's just she's playing into it in a cutesy way where it's he takes the helmet off and it's a big deal and she's covers her face as if she's seen something nuts it's I'm just kidding. You look great, something like that.
No. It's the real situation.
She caught him in an inopportune moment or something.
The real situation where
she walks in as he's putting on his mask.
No.
Yeah.
There'll be one situation where Din wakes up and he's just fully without his. He doesn't have anything on it, and it's only his helmet. So he just takes his helmet out just to cover his body as he's walking back to wherever, just to.
Okay, I think we've gone a little far on this one, so let's.
But in all honesty, I could see it working if maybe there's a little bit of development first. But obviously, it's not something they should force in for our sake.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people love the ship things, especially with all the starships. But no, a lot of people like to ship things. But I don't know. I like the idea of
Did
Just the
deserve
fact these two characters have like real strong ties to the fundamental, like they're two different sides of the Mandalorian culture. And I think there's a lot of growth there potentially.
Either way, it doesn't matter if it's like a romantic thing between them or not. They both deserve a happy ending.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like maybe it doesn't involve each other.
No, they
Maybe,
both die a horrible death as Grogu just looks on helplessly. That's how the show will end.
and that's the gritty reboot.
It'll be this terrifying. It'll be this heartbreaking like Schindler's List-esque shot of like the now orphan baby will be crawling into the now unoccupied helmet after like it flew off of his head. Just thinking, what happened? They're like trying to wake him up, like wake
And
up.
then Taika Waititi is directing this at this moment, and then a Wookiee comes in and it kicks the helmet off.
Oh my god! Oh my god! All right.
All right, okay.
Do you have any other sitcom ideas?
Maybe we should.
It's two Mandalorians and a baby.
Yep, two Mandalorians and a baby, and it's like, okay, well, I don't have to date you, but we're gonna raise this baby together, Mister. And then Pele's like she's like the kooky neighbor next door. And she's like, hey, where's my baby?
Oh man. Oh, it was gonna be funny if like
maybe at the end. Okay, go on, sorry, you were hit.
No, it'd be funny if Din and Bo like visit Luke's like Jedi temple, kind of like how parents like visit like a preschool, like do like a PTA meeting.
That would be great. He's kind of intimidating some folks there because he has this guy in full costume with his helmet on. He have like the alien. He's going to the school that's on Navarro,
and it's like, and he's like, who's? And they're like, whose dad is that? And it's like, his.
Yep. Oh, the weird kid. He takes all our cookies.
All our macaroons.
Yeah, all our blue macaroons.
Oh god. It's like, maybe at the end of the season we should like do like a wagon for like this Mandalorian as a sitcom spin-off. Like, come up with all our ideas as the season ends. That'd be pretty fun. Anyway, though, do you think anything else to say, guys, or any other random ideas you want to get off the top of your head?
Well, we should thank Atomic Beast for tuning in first and foremost.
Yes, thank you, Atomic Beast, for joining us and your informative comments regarding the Tar Vizsla and everything. So we thank you, and thanks to all those who joined us live, and those who will be watching us, or I guess after it's streamed or has watched us. You guys know what I mean. Anyway.
You know who you are, and we love you.
And we love you anyway. So it's like, so be sure to let us know what you thought and everything. And thank you for joining us. And that'll do it for this week. Do it for us this week as we holster our remotes until the next installment calls for the draw. Mano a mano, just Plus and Us.
R5.
See, now I'm even less motivated than I was